When it comes to Hisense Mini LED, it's broken up into 3 different categories for the average consumers. You have the 6 series, the 7 series, and the 8 series been the best. Well, a lot of people in the comment section has been asking me, should I buy the last year model U8H or buy the newer Hisense U7K? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer all your questions, and by the end, you'll know which one is for you and your family. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Tech Steve here, and I want to give you guys some references before we start this video. Most of the demos that you see, I put the TVs in theater day mode. Now, if I do change the preset in the TV, I will put a on-screen caption so you know the setting that I'm using. The great thing about this video is that I'm learning, and later on I will show you Dolby Vision presets as well as HDR presets. With that being said, let's jump right into it. So here's the back of the U8H. And we'll make our way over to the U7K. Now, one thing that stands out to me is that the U8H looks so much more premium in the design. If we take a closer look, of course, you have a subwoofer back here. You can mount it on the wall with the screw holes. And over to the side here, we have 4 HDMIs. 2 of these are HDMI 2.1s that can run up to 120 Hertz. And there's plenty of connections like the ATSC TV tuner. Another thing about this TV is that it has these nice angle brackets, and that really stood out to me when I got this TV in for demo the very first time. Now, when it comes to the U7K, again, it doesn't look as premium to me overall. They did change up the feet style, so you can see these are more straight versus having an angle look to them. This TV also has screw holes so you can mount it on the wall, and it does have a subwoofer as well. Now, one difference here between the two TVs is that the U7K has 4 HDMIs, and 2 of these are HDMI 2.1, but this TV will support up to 144 Hertz that goes beyond the 120 Hertz threshold. And this TV has the ATSC 3.0 TV tuner. So in this video, we're just going to jump right into some tests, and then we'll get into some of the picture demos that I have prepared for you guys. Now, when it comes to 24 frames per second motion, the U8H is much smoother in this particular setting. But the interesting thing is when you switch over to 60 frames per second, both TVs are very smooth, and that's going to play out when you're watching sporting events and things like that to help out the action to be more fluid. Now, the uniformity is not perfect on either TVs, but I do feel that the U8H slightly edges out the U7K. It just has a more consistent look to it. Now, when it comes to contrast, I want to show you guys the different levels in the red on both televisions. Then we switch over to the blue in both televisions, as well as the green in both televisions. Besides the brightness, I just feel that the U8H is a lot more details when it comes to colors. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to U8H. A lot of people do say that it has room for improvement when it comes to gradient. And after doing some tests on it, I didn't think it was as bad as people make it out to be, but it is noticeable, as you can see in this illustration. Now I will tell you that the U7K does have one thing they improve upon is in the software, because now they have a smooth gradient feature that you can turn on and adjust to make sure that the picture looks as good as possible. And who knows, maybe Hisense will update the U8H to have the Android 12 operating system and include these features in the future, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, both these TVs that I'm testing are 65-inch VA panels, and I think they look the best if you're right in front of them. But because VA panels have better contrast ratio, I will tell you that you will lose some of the picture quality if you go off axis on either TV. But if you're going to install the TV off axis and you're not going to be right in front of it, I recommend that you look at IPS panels because they're better for viewing angles, has better colors, but the downside, it may introduce a little bit more blooming. Both of these TVs do a really good job at blooming because they're both VA panels and they have plenty of local dimming zones. But let's take a look at the settings so you guys can check out the differences in the brightness. So let me grab the remote control for the U7K, and then we're going to hit the menu, hit picture, brightness, and you can see it's right there. It's at 100%. And just to give you guys an idea, it looks like the U8H is just as bright as you can see right there. But if I hit the menu on that TV and go into the picture, you can see the brightness is only halfway up. So if I press on that, Look how much more brighter his TV gets, but it does lose its details when you do that. But you can see that the brightness capabilities definitely are there. So let's put it back to 50%. So the ideal here is you have more to play with whenever you need it in the future based off the content that you watch. Now using theater day mode, once again, I'm showing you guys some different skin tones. But besides both skin tones looking pretty equal, the biggest thing that stands out to me is how bright and how uniform the U8H is in comparison. And for me personally, I really like how this background looks better on that particular TV. Now it's time to get into some picture demos so we can see which TV performs the best under different types of scenarios. The first thing I want to do is show you guys some different content with the two TVs playing side by side. Now my first impression is that the U8H was going to completely destroy the U7K mainly because of the specs on paper. But to my surprise, I feel that the U7K is definitely doing a really good job with that contrast level and showing that these details in the picture appears to have more contrast and reproduces the colors much better overall. And looking at this fire scene, I can definitely see the issues that people are talking about when it comes to picture gradient. Next, I put the TVs in the sporting picture profile and I didn't touch any of the other settings. And for me, I still like the picture better when it comes to overall on the U7K. The main thing is just I like that dark contrasty look to it. And it seems like the colors are more natural. And it could be because I think Hisense did a better job calibrating this TV at the factory. And I'll say if you got the U8H, you're definitely going to have to find some type of calibrator to come in to get everything tweaked in. But right out of the box, to me, the U7K is doing a much better job. Next, we're going to switch over to Disney Plus so I can show you guys some footage. And this will include Dolby Vision as well as your standard SDR picture profiles. And starting off with the Dolby Vision IQ, I think both TVs actually look pretty similar. I was very surprised at this. When I switched over to the Dolby Vision Dark, the U8H lost all the shadow detail, as you can see right here. In some cases, this can make the TV very unwatchable unless you go in there and make some adjustments. And using the factory settings, I want to show you guys Dolby Vision Custom. And then we switched over to Dolby Vision Games, which this is not a gaming console, but just want to let you see what it looks like. Next, I switched the TVs over to your SDR picture mode so you guys can take a look. I started off with standard and then I went through a few other ones. And as you can see, it depends on which profile you pick, the TV is going to perform in different ways. Now, last I chose Filmmaker's mode, and the thing about this particular setting is that it needs metadata from a particular film to be able to produce the best picture quality. And I know there's some videos on Amazon Prime that does support this format. And you'll find it on movies like Star Wars, Avatar, Black Panther, Stranger Things, just to name a few. And here's a list of some directors from filmmakersmode.com so you can see some of their credentials. So here's the remote controls that comes with both TVs. This is the one that comes with the U8H, and this is the one that comes with the U7K. The only difference to the design is that you can see the little microphones right there, but both TVs do have this feature that's called Find Your Remote Control. And this allows you to use the TV to find a remote control just by pressing a button on the bottom of the television. Now, when you pick it up, you have all the different functions you need. Like you can add profiles to your Google account, you have voice commands, inputs. Also like the fact that it has this white navigation key so you can easily see it in the dark. Plus it does have a very dim backlight. And on this one, you have these hotkeys at the bottom like Netflix, Prime, YouTube, Disney, Tubi, and Peacock. Where on the U7K, they just basically have the same type of hotkeys, but they also have apps as well. Another thing about these remote controls is that a lot of people were getting confused how to get into some of the settings. So Hisense did add this menu button right here, so you'll know which button to get to the gaming settings. Another thing I want to point out is that both TVs have hands-free Google operation. There's a little switch down here at the bottom that you can turn the mics off and on. And again, if we go to the U7K, you can see that it has that same setup, but I do like the fact that these lights are much dimmer on this TV, so they're not as glaring if you don't want to use the microphone. Now, as far as getting to your inputs without the remote control, you just press this button on the bottom, and you can see you can go through the different inputs. And if you go to the one that says find a remote control on either TV, you press and hold this button down, and then you'll get this pop-up right here. And then it gives you a little sound for finding your remote control. So now I showed you a lot about this TV. Let's get into some gaming, and just for fun, I pulled up Twisted Metal, which is an old Sony game, and it was actually pretty fun, but it's 16 bits or something like that. Now here's the U8H, and I just want to show you guys the gaming menu. You just press this button right here at the bottom. Then you can go down to what they call gaming zones. Under here you can see gaming information, and this is basically going to give you this little sidebar so you can see the frames and all that good stuff. You can also change the location. Then they have gaming settings, and under that you can change the black level, white levels, instant response, and this TV does support FreeSync. The U7K does have the more advanced gaming system, so if you hit menu on a remote, you get this little sidebar at the bottom. From here you can see your frames per second, HDR, variable refresh rate, and you can turn on this frame view, which gives you this little ticker at the top so you can see how many frames you're getting on your game. You have dark details, wide. You can also make your screen a little bit smaller. Of course, you have FreeSync, high refresh rate, and if you hit at the end, you go over to the full menu right here, which I like much better. Another thing you can do is with this menu is you can go into your gaming settings and you get this little pop-up, and inside of here you can control your contrast, your black levels, your ALLM, FreeSync, and again there's the high refresh rate mode. When it comes to gaming, I prefer the U8H because I really like the fact that it has a much brighter picture in gaming mode without changing any kind of settings. But I do like the U7K menu system much better, and maybe in the future you will see some updates on the U8H. With that being said, let's talk about the audio system. Well, I will tell you that both TVs has 3 speakers. There's 2 bottom speakers, there's a subwoofer on the back, but with that being said, which one has the clearest sound? So I put both TVs in theater mode. Let's see what it sounds like. The last thing I want to mention is that both TVs will support Apple AirPlay and Apple HomeKit, so yes, you can hook it up and control it with Siri. Plus, they both have the Amazon Alexa built right into them, so you don't have to use an external device. Now, I will tell you that the U7K does have a feature where you can add a webcam to it and use hand gestures to control certain functionalities on a TV, and that's a bonus. Now, as far as picture quality, I would say that just right out of the box, I think the U7K does have a better picture, but I will say that the U8H is much brighter overall. But which TV would I go with? Well, in my opinion, I think the U8H is the most flexible just because it has a higher nits rating, so it's brighter, and it has more local demi-zones, which might take a little bit of customizing to get the right picture, but once you dial it in, that TV is going to blow the U7K away. And if you own either of these TVs, I would love for you guys to share your best settings as well as your experience with these TVs so we can share it with others and help out the community. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Tech Steve. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.